Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating and frankly urgent economic paradox explored in a recent paper by Brett Hemingway-Falk and Jerry Tsoukalos. We're looking closely at the intersection of artificial intelligence, labor displacement, and market survival. Now, the baseline premise is something we're already seeing all over the headlines, right? AI is displacing human workers at an incredible speed. But what happens when that displacement outpaces the economy's ability to actually reabsorb those workers? Well, those displaced workers are also consumers, and losing their income risks eroding the very consumer demand that these firms depend on to survive in the first place.
So, this brings us to a massive economic mystery. If the cliff is visible to all, meaning if every firm can clearly see that laying off their consumer base will eventually destroy demand for their own products, why would rational, forward-looking firms race toward it? You would think that perfect foresight would act as a natural brake. You'd think firms would realize that automating their way to boundless productivity but absolutely zero consumer demand is completely self-destructive. Yet the evidence suggests firms are doing exactly that. They're accelerating their automation plans despite the obvious long-term macroeconomic risks.
Okay, let's dive into this contradiction, which is formally known as the automation paradox. The disconnect here is incredibly stark. On one hand, AI displaces workers, which directly erodes the purchasing power that all firms rely on. When a worker loses their income, they stop buying goods, obviously. But on the other hand, firms just keep automating anyway. Why? Well, the equilibrium model we're exploring today refocuses our attention away from the labor market and onto the product market. It shows us that simply knowing the cliff is there is absolutely not enough to stop a firm from driving right off of it.
To really understand why this happens, we have to look at the micro-incentives driving the behavior. When a firm automates a task, that individual firm captures 100% of the labor cost savings. It's an immediate, massive boost to their bottom line. But, and this is the kicker, the firm does not bear the full cost of the demand destruction it just caused. Under competitive pricing, that loss in aggregate demand is shared across the entire market. The automating firm only bears a tiny fraction of the demand loss. Specifically, a fraction we'll call 1 over n, while the rest of the damage falls squarely on the shoulders of its rivals.
And that brings us to N, a really important character in our economic mystery. N represents the number of competing firms in a sector. Essentially, N is the denominator of responsibility. The larger N is, the more fragmented the market becomes. And the more fragmented the market, the more the responsibility for destroying consumer demand is diluted. Think about it. If there are 100 competing firms, an automating firm keeps all the cost savings for itself, but only feels 1/100th of the lost consumer spending it caused. This specific demand externality is the exact trap that forces rational firms into a blind automation arms race.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. Notice how the gap, the over-automation wedge, expands drastically as the number of competing firms increases. This wedge is the difference between what firms actually do and what is collectively optimal for the market. Now, a single monopoly, where n equals 1, would fully internalize that demand loss and actually act efficiently. But as competition increases, that wedge just grows and grows. Basically, more competition actually makes the over-automation problem worse, because it heavily dilutes each firm's private incentive to hold back.
Which leads us directly to the formal finding in the paper, Proposition 1, competition dilutes restraint. Now, I know this runs counter to the standard economic intuition we're all taught, the idea that competition is always good and disciplines firms to act in the best interests of society. But in this specific scenario, a monopolist fully internalizes the demand externality because they are the entire market. If they lay off workers, they literally lose their own customers. But competing firms systematically over-automate because they severely underestimate the social cost of their actions. Each firm calculates its profit-maximizing automation rate as a strictly dominant strategy, and that pushes displacement way, way beyond what is collectively optimal.
Let's break down the exact parameters that dictate a firm's automation threshold really quick. First, we have cost savings, represented by the letter C. This is simply the wage of the human worker minus the cost of the AI. Next up is the demand loss, L, which represents the lost consumer spending per displaced worker. And finally, K, the integration frictions. This is the idea that each successive task gets progressively harder and more expensive to automate. The equilibrium hits when a firm weighs its private cost savings against its diluted fraction of the demand loss plus the friction of integration.
Let's move to the next logical step and see how this builds. As technology improves at this breakneck pace, those integration frictions drop. So what happens when AI becomes completely seamless to deploy and that moderating friction disappears entirely?
Well, it creates a classic prisoner's dilemma.
Look at the matrix. If all firms mutually restrain their automation, everyone maintains their baseline profits. That is unequivocally the best collective outcome. But if a firm restrains while its rivals automate, the restraining firm suffers the revenue drop from the lost aggregate demand, but they don't get any of the cost savings, they just get crushed. Conversely, if a firm defects and automates, they capture high cost savings. Therefore, defecting to automate is always the individually rational choice, regardless of what your rivals do. This inevitably drags everyone down to mutual automation with reduced profits across the board. Hello, Nash equilibrium.
This is why the authors point out something absolutely crucial. They note that, quote, no voluntary agreement among firms is self-enforcing because automation is a strictly dominant strategy, end quote. Knowing the cliff is there just isn't enough. Even if all the top CEOs got together in a room and agreed that collective restraint would raise all their profits, that communication is literally just cheap talk. The underlying financial incentives push every single one of them to defect. No non-binding agreement can restore efficiency here because the temptation to grab the cost savings while sharing the demand loss is just too mathematically overwhelming. And here is where the true damage of this trap lies: dead weight loss. This isn't just a simple, zero-sum wealth transfer where money moves from workers to machines. It actively destroys total economic value. It is a very real cost to society created purely by market inefficiency, resulting in a net loss of total surplus. The value doesn't just change hands, it vanishes.
So we have to ask the question, is this just the rich getting richer while workers lose out? The answer is emphatically no. It's actually a lose-lose scenario. The over-automation wedge is a structural externality that harms both sides of the equation. Both factor classes, labor and capital, end up significantly worse off than they would be if they could just find a way to coordinate and restrain the pace of automation. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the gap between the possible outcomes. The cooperative optimum, the scenario where everyone works together, is peak efficiency. But the Nash equilibrium, where we actually end up, sits strictly down and to the left of that peak. In economics, this means the Nash outcome is Pareto-dominated. In plain English, moving from the Nash equilibrium back up to the cooperative rate would literally make both the firm owners and the workers strictly better off.
Let's detail the exact mechanisms of this deadweight loss, the real-world fallout of the trap. First, and most obvious, workers lose wage income directly through displacement. Second, the firm owners, despite successfully cutting costs on every single automated task, suffer massively from eroded consumer demand. And finally, because of that collective displacement destroying the revenue base, the equilibrium profits for every single firm fall well below their cooperative potential. Everyone takes a massive hit because they literally can't stop themselves from over-automating. Imagine a generalized social planner stepped in to try and fix this. They would see the total wedge between what firms are doing and what they should be doing as being made up of two distinct parts. On one side, we have the uninternalized demand externality. This is purely the raw profit loss caused by the fragmented market we discussed earlier. On the other side, we have the distributional premium. This is the additional restraint a planner would impose simply because they care about protecting worker income and overall societal welfare. So, the crucial point is this. Even if a social planner places absolutely zero weight on worker welfare, meaning they only care about aggregate corporate profit, there is still a massive gap between the Nash equilibrium and the cooperative optimum. Even without a shred of focus on worker welfare, the math completely proves that firms are over-automating and hurting their own bottom lines. The drive to compete is actually making them less profitable than they could be.
Which leaves us staring at an inescapable mathematical trap. The equilibrium model proves that knowing the cliff is there and having perfect foresight of the demand destruction to come simply isn't enough to change the competitive incentives driving firms right over the edge. It is a game theory nightmare where the individually rational choice creates devastating collective economic damage. So, if rationality, perfect foresight, and the desire for profit can't stop the AI layoff trap, what can? It's a question that challenges the very structure of our transitioning economy, and one we are all going to have to reckon with very, very soon.